Story 1. My husband and I used to live in a fourth-floor apartment with a balcony that was over a greenhouse. The actual greenhouse had walls around it and was gated. We never saw anyone going in or out of there. One day, while I was out having a smoke, a strong gust of wind came and blew my cap off my head. It did a boomerang in the wind for a moment before dropping directly below me on the roof of the greenhouse. I really loved that hat. It was a beautiful purple, full round ball cap that I got while traveling. I went inside to tell my husband, who didn't seem to care much. I quickly scrambled for ideas on how to get it back. I couldn't think of a single thing and realized that unless I got the gates unlocked and a ladder, there was no way I was getting it back. I would have made peace with this if the hat wasn't directly in my line of vision, so I'd have to stare at it every day. A storm was coming, so I knew if I just waited until tomorrow to see if I could find my way in, the hat would be ruined anyway. I considered jumping off my balcony to get it, but it was a glass roof, so no good. My husband then came up with this idea. This was in Japan, so we had these things called futon clamps. A lot of folks in Japan sleep on futons, which are like duvets crossed with mattresses. In the morning, people usually throw them over the railing to air out and use a futon clamp to anchor them. My husband grabbed the clamp, opened it up, and held the teeth open with a chopstick. He then tied 2 bath towel belts together and fastened them to the clamp. He told me he was going to throw the clamp into the wind so that when it landed on my hat, it would knock the chopstick out and fasten to the hat. I was upset, so I told him to go away and went to mope. 2 minutes later, he came back with my hat. Story 2. I had a headache at work years ago at a previous job. I almost never get headaches, so it was bothering me because I couldn't ignore it. My coworker said, "I can get rid of it. Come here. I'll squeeze your head." I replied, "What? I'll squeeze your head." And sure enough, he grabbed my head and squeezed the sides so hard I thought he was going to fracture my skull. Then he squeezed from front and back. He asked, "Better?" That headache was gone and never came back. Now I go around curing my coworkers' headaches. Everyone thinks I'm crazy until it works. Story 3. Got a fuel pump for a very old Chevrolet S10. Put it in the truck, but it did not work. Googled the problem and found many other people having the same issue with the same fuel pump and no answer. Some random guy on a Chevrolet S10 forum, which I found on page 3 of Google, posted 10 years ago that the instructions were wrong for that fuel pump. You needed to connect the red wire to the black one, and not the green one as the instructions said. Worked instantly. Story 4. I worked for a courier company and this happened to my boss. He was on a long delivery out in the country. We're from Virginia, but he's currently in Kentucky. We're pretty country ourselves, but not like this. This is before the smartphone era, so he stops to talk to a local for directions. The man said, "Go as far as you can see twice, and there's your turn." My boss stared with bewilderment at the deep countryside wisdom that just came out of this man's mouth. But he fixed his eyes on a spot as far as he could see. He drove to that spot and made a mental note of the next farthest spot he could see. Upon arriving at the second spot, dead on was the little unmarked turn he was looking for. We still quote it to this day. Go as far as you can see twice. Story 5. I read a newspaper article about a man who went to his local convenience store and bought 2 lottery tickets. Most people in that situation would play different numbers on each ticket in order to double their small chance of winning. Not this man. He was interviewed and said he believed that playing the same numbers on both tickets would double down his chance, showing somehow that he was really serious about wanting those numbers to win. So that's what he did. But it turned out that he actually did have the winning numbers for that drawing, and he owned 2 out of the 3 winning tickets. Therefore, he was entitled to walk home with 2/3 of the jackpot instead of just half. Story 6. The 10-cent per copy Xerox machine at my high school, which gave change for dollars and dimes, would accept Xerox dollar bills in the bill changer. The Secret Service gave the school a visit to explain to us how serious a crime counterfeiting was. Story 7. If you drop something and can't find it, drop another and watch where it falls. Worked great twice while tiling my bathroom. Didn't work so well when I dropped a winch handle off the boat. Story 8. If your cat loses interest in his cat bed or scratching post, Don't get rid of it. Just move it to a new location in your house. The cat will find it and use it again. Story 9. If you find yourself obsessing about something, set a date and stretch of time to worry about it. I have no idea why, but that was the only thing that let me set something down in my mind and sleep one night. It was a piece of advice my mother gave me a few days earlier. Ironically, it was something else she had said to me that was the source of the worry. Story 10. My therapist told me to give myself permission to grieve later because I was grieving something that hadn't happened yet. It sounded so obvious when she said it because she said, "You're going to grieve it later. It hasn't happened yet. So, give yourself permission to grieve later and not right now." Bizarrely, it worked for the most part. And I give myself permission to do other things later too, like worry, get mad, cry, and so on. Somehow, the act of consciously telling myself I can do it later makes it not so overwhelming right now. Story 11. As a welder, an experienced welder told me if your eyes get flash burned to put raw potato slices on your eyes, and it will stop the pain. It works, but don't ask me why. Story 12. When having anxiety or a panic attack, put your hands in cold running water. It helps with causing a sensory grounding. You focus on the sensation of the cold water. Story 13. When you experience bad turbulence on an airplane, lift your feet up. The movement of your feet messes with your mind and makes it freak out. So if you lift them, your anxiety goes down instantly. Always works for me, but if it doesn't quite do the trick, I recommend ordering a few beers in quick succession. Story 14. I officiate golf tournaments. This involves long hours of sitting in a golf cart. Then, when I had to get out, I'd be very stiff. A friend told me to put a towel down and sit on it, and I wouldn't be as stiff. How could that work? I'm just sitting there, not moving, not even driving the cart around. Well, it does work. I get out and I wouldn't be stiff. Story 15. Old UK stuff, but when youngish, I was told that if you held 8 10-pence coins together and wrapped them 2.5 times with black electrician's tape and then sliced through with a razor blade, vending machines would accept them as 50-pence coins. A 5-fold increase. We didn't believe it, but tried it and experimented with a jukebox in a pub, and it actually worked. The only problem was that a guy turned up to empty the money box while we were there. He picked them up and looked suspiciously around the pub while we pretended not to notice. I believe there were a number of other related incidents around the Leicester area at the time. Story 16. We had a television that had a video card, or whatever is in a television that shows the images, with connections that were faulty. My husband read online to take it out of the television and bake it. This softened the solder and made the television work again. We did that several times, and finally the television did die. Story 17. If you cannot find something and you know it is right in front of you somewhere, walk away for a minute or two, then come back. You will find it right away. It is easy to get tunnel vision when looking for something, especially when you get frustrated. Stepping back to reset your brain does wonders. Then you get kind of mad since whatever you were looking for is sitting right there where you were looking. Story 18. One day I came home from work and there was this little white box sitting on the counter. I asked my wife, "What is this thing?" She said, "It's a box that emits a high-pitched sound that only cats can hear, and it will keep Spike off the counters." Me, "How much did you pay for this magic box?" Wife, "It was $50. Me, $50 for a magic box that's not going to work? Can you return it? Wife, "Let's just see if it works, and I'll return it if it doesn't." I ate my words. This was 10 years ago, and my cat got up on the counter one time after we got the box, and then never again. The box doesn't even work anymore. I think it's not even plugged in anyway. Still, the cat won't go near it. Sorcery. Story 19. My third-grade teacher, Mrs. Thrillkill, her real name, told us that if you want to remember something, repeat it quickly in your mind at least 3 times or more, and you will remember it. I've used this trick successfully for 50 years. Story 20. Doing something halfway is better than not doing it at all a lot of the time. Like 45 seconds of brushing your teeth is better than not brushing them. Taking a shower but not washing your hair is better than not showering. Cleaning a small area of your house is better than doing nothing. Story 21. When my firstborn was an infant, A friend told me that an old native woman said that to keep your baby from crying when you lay them in their crib to sleep, you should move your hand in a circle in the air near them, while slowly backing up and widening the circle until you leave the room. It sounded like a bunch of hooey, but my friends swore by it, and dang if it didn't work every time. No idea why, but my kids were all good sleepers. Side note that I certainly always would respond if they woke up and cried, because I wanted them to know that I was there if they needed me, but that didn't happen much either. Story 22. Folding a drawing from a hat, style ticket accordion style, increases its volume in the bag and prevents it from being stuck between others. I used it in middle school and won a CD player. Story 23. Housemate lost her cat and was devastated. She put up missing posters. An anonymous person contacted her and told her to go out in the middle of the night, yell the cat's name, and then be quiet and listen. She found the cat. It was stuck in the neighbor's shed. Story 24. Is your dog afraid of the vacuum cleaner? Punish the vacuum in front of the dog. Hit it and tell it how bad it is. Get really mad at it. Put it in its place. I can't believe this actually works, but it does. Story 25. I got a ganglion cyst on my wrist. The medical professionals recommended surgery. My mom's wife, who is a nurse, recommended hitting it with a book. The book worked. Story 26. If you make a list of everything you have to do and always write down anything that comes to your mind on the same list, you will not worry about forgetting things. Once it is written down on a list that you know you are going to look at, your brain stops keeping an open tab for it. Story 27. I was traveling for work and at the Pittsburgh airport. I made a stop in the restroom that has those automatic sink fixtures. The sink wasn't dispensing water or soap, and the custodian told me to hit it until it works. I was successful in my attempts to beat automatic sink fixtures to dispense water and soap with a slap or two from then on. Story 28. I tell people this. Sick and congested? Salsa. Hot salsa. Have some good hot salsa and chips. Cleared my congestion for a few hours, and nothing at the drugstore would even touch it. Plus, there's no dosage limit. Have as much as you like. Hot and sour soup also works well. Any spicy food should work, really. Story 29. Back seat while a friend of a friend was driving us somewhere in downtown Philadelphia. We're trying to find parking and see a space finally. The wrong end of a one-way street though. I tell the friend of a friend to just throw it in reverse and back up down the one-way, jokingly. She slams it into reverse. We back it up. She parallel parks it just fine. A police officer sitting on the street watched the whole thing and didn't move a muscle. Story 30. I couldn't figure out how to keep my cat from jumping up onto my shelf and knocking my plants off. They were hardy plants, so they survived, but they took quite a beating. My aunt suggested I buy some citrus-scented air freshener and spray the shelf every few days. I thought it wouldn't work, but I didn't want my plants to die, so I tried it. It worked flawlessly and has been effective for 3 whole years now. Story 31. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and seriously struggle with remembering to brush my teeth before bed. Someone told me to put my toothpaste in the sink, so I would have to physically pick it up and move it out of the way to use the sink. Once the toothpaste is in my hand, it will remind me to actually use it. Sure enough, it totally works. I usually have to use the bathroom around the time I get ready for bed. Story 32. Tired of procrastinating? Got told to set a time to do 2 things you've been dreading sequentially, with what you are most dreading last. You'll find the first thing much easier to get to, and even if you don't get to the second, at least you got one done. Story 33. Holding a small stone to the beak of a chicken, then moving it away slowly, will hypnotize it. We had chickens at one point. A joker at work told me this. I didn't believe it for the longest time, but I finally tried it, and I'll be damned, it worked. Weird. Story 34. General knowledge. My father, when I was a kid, said, if you want to know if the spaghetti is done, throw some at the wall. If it sticks, it's done. Personal anecdote. In 1992, I told a friend, hey, you said I can borrow your truck, just need the keys. He replied, no, you don't. Use your keys. They'll work. And they did. Lots of keys would start his truck. Story 35. Put plastic wrap in the freezer, and it will come off the roll without wadding up into a ball of itself. Of course, you have to let it warm up to room temperature to wrap your food, but it doesn't take too long. Story 36. If you put a damp paper towel around a can or bottle before putting it in the freezer, it will chill faster. I thought it was stupid until I tried it. Then I realized it actually kind of makes sense because the water in the paper towel is essentially acting as a conductor for the cold air temperature in the freezer. Story 37. My dad has been known to say, pain is relative. If you don't want pain somewhere, apply pain somewhere else. So occasionally, if something is bothering me, I'll pinch myself elsewhere, and it has worked so far for me. Story 38. Have a jar with a stuck lid? Smack the side of the lid against the counter a few times. It should allow you to easily pop off the lid right after. If not, smack a few more times and twist. Hasn't failed me before. Taught my significant other this, and now she doesn't need me anymore.